the season had come in, or the time has come, I should say, where you have to kind of turn a little heat on inside Elliott's Law. So let me go ahead and adjust this thermostat just a little bit. Yeah, let's kick it to 7980. I like to keep it warm. Welcome to another edition of When Black Men Talk. It's the conversation myself, Mark Elliott, Mr. DeMaurice, and Mr. Charles have on a weekly basis. I want to thank you for giving us the air. And we're being heard in a lot of different new places, different countries. And I want to welcome you all folks to it. Appreciate you taking time out to listen. You could be listening to anything else, but you find a way to listen to us. And we like that. We like that. Actually, we love that. Thinking about turning the heat up, which costs money, I came across this interesting article today, gentlemen. I want to kind of get you guys' opinion on it. And they kind of said this had something to do with the election that just took place not too long ago in the United States of America. They did a survey and they found that 78% of Americans, 78, I want to make sure I get that number clear because that number is kind of high. 78% of Americans are living from paycheck to paycheck. When you hear that, Mr. DeMaurice, what could be drawing from such findings, sir?
I in a way, you gotta try to figure out where the source is coming from. I'm always looking at where the source is coming from because you really don't know. It could be propaganda from another country. But I can see that now because when the coronavirus came about, the United States was losing a lot of money. A lot of stores, a lot of businesses were losing a lot of money. And what I saw, I don't know if anybody else is paying attention, is that when, things started picking up, it seemed like prices went up. It seemed like businesses wanted to recoup the money they lost that year that we were in, we were isolated and we were quarantined. So it seemed like it ramped up, but it never ramped down. It seemed like they started to make more and more profit trying to recoup. And it seems like these corporations said, you know what? Why don't we just keep it here? We're making money. We're, hand and foot. People need the services we have. So why don't we just keep it here? And they never really kind of eased up on the American people. So at the same time, salaries weren't going up. People were still trying to find work, things of that sort. People lost their jobs during that particular point because businesses went out of, business. So I can see where it's more than in the past, but I think there were some factors to enter that. But I don't agree with the numbers that they put out there. I'm not sure if it's higher or lower, but I would check the source.
I hear you with that about the source and the numbers. That's a high percentage. But you touched on something I wanted to go into a little bit because you spoke of COVID and prices went up. And I don't know if you guys remember years ago when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans and they shut down some of the oil refineries in that area. If you recall, gas prices went through the roof. It never came back down. Now, Katrina happened a long time ago, a long time ago. But if you think back, we weren't spending that much money for gas prior to that. One hurricane. So in reality, sometimes in a capitalistic society, they look for any excuse basically to ramp things up. And I think you have a strong point there, Mr. Reese. When COVID hit, everybody decided, you know what, we lost a little bit. Let's crank it up, and everything went up. And due to inflation, and everything else, we started paying for a lot. And I could too question the 78%, but there are a lot of people, man, are living beyond their means. We're gonna get into that a little bit, and are living paycheck to paycheck. And one thing I've noticed too, a lot of the younger generation, they're not living on their own anymore. A lot of the 20s and 30s are still living with mommy and daddy. I work with some folks in their 20s or 30s, still living with mommies and daddies, and they're riding around in nice automobiles. And some of that stuff that they're riding around and wearing, mommy and daddy still paying for. Mr. Charles, when you hear the recent survey said that 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, what do you draw from it, sir?
Yeah, I would agree with DeMaurice. I think the number does seem a little high because you never know on that instance. But the other part, I guess, looking into it, there are a lot of people even before COVID. that were working, like for instance, in the service industries, right? Food service, doing other things like that on the lower level when it comes to jobs. So, and what we learned with those industries and that industry like that, when they were trying to get people to come back to work because of the COVID, even some of the mom and pop uh, restaurants and whatnot, they were not really asking or not providing any additional money, right? So they were not raising what they were providing, like the wages and whatnot. They were like, you just need to come back to work. We need people. And some of those companies went out of business. And I think that has something to do with it. I do also agree with uh, the standpoint of the lack of budgeting and discipline because you can make a bunch of money. What? Let's say, for instance, I'm just going to throw this at you. Let's say what $100,000 or even $80,000 means to one person, depending on where you live, can be different for another person based on how they go about spending money. So you have to have nice things. You got to do all this and that. Some people literally overspend. They spend beyond their means and they live beyond their means because what they think they try to keep up with the Joneses. The other part of it too is I think that you have to really look at people's skill set because a lot of the jobs out there now, since COVID, that have changed. I mean, I was thinking this the other day. You can literally, if you have basic computer skills and customer service skills, you can make a lot of money and you can stay at home compared to what it was before COVID because now the companies are saying, hey, we can save a lot of money by not hiring people. We can hire people through temporary agencies or tips or temporary workers, and we can have them do the work without spending the extra money. So you got to have there's a different kind of a wave of skill set that people are really learning how to make money. And if you don't have that skill set, if you're old school or you're a person that does more in the service industry, that might be why people are not making the money they think they should at this point.
Yeah, COVID definitely had an impact on how people basically work, how people looked at view work in general. In a lot of different areas, things tend to change. I want to come back to the word means, though, because to me, there's a psychological thing behind that, Mr. Charles. When you think that you said some people, yeah, can make 80 and they might spend like they live making 150. And to me, I always looked at it, live beyond your means. There's an impulsive thing about that. And that's what I want to kind of maybe spend a little time on talking about here because I believe there's some emotions that's tied into that and some self esteem that's tied into that. And I'll say about the self esteem, I remember, when I was younger, clothes, electronics were my thing. Much younger, I'm going back to. And what I found started happening was when the more clothes I liked, the more expensive it became. GQ was the magazine, I used to look at from time to time. And I realized some of the stuff that they had or some of the clothes I wanted to dress in, I couldn't afford. So I'm like, you know what? I give that up. I'm not going beyond what I know I could spend just to try to wear certain things. But I noticed today in today's world, realistically, if you can't afford it, really, it doesn't mean you don't get it in some form or fashion. So when I go beyond, I look at the word, are we living behind our means? The words means what is the emotions or the self-esteem that's kind of underneath someone possibly or people. It seems like it's not even people. It's like a good part of our society is choosing to live beyond their means. It could be clothes, homes, cars, a lot of different things. What's underneath all that?
I'll just jump in. I think a lot, and I think social media has a lot to do with it, man. I believe that with all my heart because people that are on social media are always trying to show who they are and what they are. They're trying to get somebody to impress somebody. And I know some people personally. Every time you turn around, just like they got to buy the latest purses or the watches. Look what I'm doing. Look where I'm at, and look at me, and look at me. And I think that's the way society's going. But I also think that it can become almost like an addiction. If you like something, you want to go out there and get it, and you can't afford that, or you think you can't. And particularly think about it from the standpoint. If you have a family, right? You by yourself is one thing, but you out here buying these things up, and you got a family. You trying to feed kids and take care of kids and grandkids, and again, you're worrying about what other people are thinking. At the end of the day, it depends on. We would be. I say this, and maybe just because of my experience, but uh, if you have a budget, you'd be surprised what you really need to live on, right? Depending on where you live. I mean, certain things you just don't have to have, but you want it, and I think that's where the wants and the mental and the emotional stuff comes into play. Because some people buy, they need to have this stuff or feel like they need to have it because it makes them feel good. Because oftentimes the other parts of their life are messed up.
I remember a while ago, Miss Demeries, I was talking to a lady, she's a little older than me at the time, at work, and this is going back maybe like 25 years ago. And she said she's spending, I'm going out to get a Coach pocketbook at that time, of like $600. I was like, what you need with a pocketbook that costs $600 for? Well, it's a nice pocketbook. And if it, if a strap or something breaks, they give you a new one for free. I said, for $600, they should give you much more than that for free. And you think about really the purpose of a pocketbook, realistically, is to basically carry some items that you want to carry from your home to basically transport with you when you're not at home for the most part, and keep your personal items in it.
Yeah.
But that mentality as coach and these other things that they're basically pushed onto individuals, that you must mean something if you spend this type of money and wear or have that and kind of advertise me to the other folks, it says something about you. So that's where I kind of roll this through to Mr. Medeiros when I say about the emotions and the self-esteem, because some people can afford to go out there and spend $800, $900 in a pocketbook. But for what her and I was making at that time, was it smart to do? I don't think so. Your reaction to it, Mr. Demeries?
I get the quality part. You want to get things with good quality so it'll last you longer. That's what when we were kids and our parents would go shopping for us. They wanted stuff that they didn't care about the brand name. They wanted to know if this stuff is going to last till you have another growth spurt. So, but a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
don't realize they're paying for the name. They're not paying for the actual price of the material and how much it costs to make and stuff like that. You're just paying for a name. So if you have a Coach bag, you're paying for the name Coach, that company that's doing that has convinced you that their bag is so much special than everybody else's bag that you need to pay $600 as opposed to $60 the regular price of that bag. So a lot of people don't realize that and they want to keep up with folks. I think Charles is absolutely right. Social media has its really bad points where it's almost like people are competing to see, well, I got something that's better than yours. So can you level up to this? And so that's human nature, that everybody wants to level up and have the best of the best. And if a particular brand is considered the best, then everybody wants to have it so that they won't be looked upon as less than or not with it or not trending in the right way. But it's all kind of it's really kind of silly. And you would think people who get older, especially in your 20s and your 30s, you would think that you were mature enough to say, you know what, I'm just wasting my money paying for a brand. You were mature in a way and say, I really don't need the brand. I just need something that I feel comfortable with, and I don't really care what people think or how they feel about what I'm wearing. So, but we don't get to that. It's a society. We're very competitive. Again, social media has made it worse because um, I think we were talking about that. I think either Mr. Charles or I was talking to another buddy of mine about this, about one of his family members has a butt lift and they got an operation and now they're in the hospital because I guess there's complications to it. And I'm trying to figure out like why are these women doing this? It don't look natural. Then you got these influencers who are on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and they're acting like they're in the gym, like they worked out for this to sell a product. And I'm like, don't they know we can see that butt does not look the butt and the legs don't match. The butt and the body doesn't match what you're really doing. And so I think they feel like they're fooling people that they're in the gym all the time, and this is what they made, and they're dedicated and they're disciplined, and this is, you should do this too, and you should buy this particular product. But it's got really scary to see how folks, to me, it's like they don't realize that you see them who they actually are, not who they're pretending to be, and they try to fool you into this person they're trying to be, and it's like it's not working. It doesn't work. Maybe for some people, but it doesn't work for me.
I think overall it does work, boss. You're right, not for you. It does work for a lot of people, man. Because if you look around just with the butt lift industry in general, man, it has exploded over the past several years. And there are a lot of women that aren't choosing to do it, still second guessing themselves. And to me, a lot of it comes down to your personal validation. Do you validate yourself or you look for others to validate you? And when you're looking for others to validate you, you're going to buy into that emotion. Your self esteem is going to do things and put yourself in a situation where you want that validation come from others. And it could be in the form of a butt lift. It could be in the form of basically what type of car you drive, what type of house you seek out to buy, all type of things, man. And it's amazing sometimes. I hear some horrific stories where people are living in these certain homes, and basically they might even hurt their spouse, take their spouse life, just to get insurance money to kind of cover up the fair fact that they've been living way beyond their means for years, can't afford it, but they feel like they must to. I mean, they must have. So, we talk about this lightly, but it affects a lot of people on a daily basis. I mean, based on what they feel like they must wear, how they present themselves. And I laugh when you talked about the working out because I'm going to say this, man. I remember one time I was watching Dwayne Rock basically in the gym for 10, 15 minutes. And I'm like, that's nice, bro. But what did you take to get to that point before you got in the gym? Did you do
Mm-hmm.
anything? Possibly. Because I'm not impressed with, you looking like Thor and show me the true before, show me the graduation, not where you are now, where if it's not all what it's supposed to be. And the sad thing is, a lot of people look at that and see that and think, you know what, I can get that too, and don't realize how it was really gotten. And who knows? So I hear the social media. I think social media is huge, but long before social media for what it was, you still had the magazines, you still had television, you still had a lot of these things where it was influencing people mentally. You're not nothing unless you're doing this, unless you're driving that, unless you're living this way. And it's amazing. I know you have said this. I remember you said this years ago, Mr. DeMaurice. A lot of these rappers are riding around these cars. They're not their cars in videos. That's not they're not their cars. But they're riding around these cars, smoking blunts, drinking, and you think they're getting out there living in a deal, and they're not. And that's the perception. Now you might imagine, speaking of the rappers, a young innocent mind sees that they can't make that type of money what they think that where they should be riding in a Bentley or something of that nature. How am I going to get that type of money? You know what? I can get it fast doing X, Y, and Z. It's amazing, man. So I hear the social media part of it, but I think in the sense that in a lot of ways, if you're not strong to fight it all, there's a lot of different influences come to you and basically play with your emotions and play with your self-esteem to where if you need that to be validated by anything else other than yourself, you'll fall to it. You'll definitely fall to it before you know you're living way beyond your means, trying to get beyond your means. And like Mr. Charles says, if you budget, you can live anywhere good, anywhere. It's amazing. I was watching, I want to say this real quick. I was watching an actor. I can't think of his name. I think his last name is Washington. And this football player said to me in a video, well, you know about struggle. You know nothing about struggle. He said, look, man, when I came out, he said, I went to college on Pell Grants. I did this, I did that. He said, I didn't have to pay any money when I got out. He said, and I didn't want to take any type of job. He said, so when I came out of college and I wanted to get into acting, he said, I took a job that was paying me $300 a week. He said, after taxes, I got $280. He said, I had a room that I had to pay $80 a week for. So he said, basically, I learned to live off cheap Chinese food. I shared a bathroom with a whole unit. This is in Harlem, New York, years ago. And he's come up from there. How many people are willing to do that to have what they want in life later on in life? We all want it now. We want it now. It's like a microwave. We want to drive the luxury vehicle right now. We don't want to work to the point, some point in life, we could have that and have it the right way, you know. And I always looked at it like this. I remember telling my oldest daughter when she was younger. We was in the store one day and she went out and I walked into the men's section. She went over and looked at some things and she came back with a shirt. And I felt like my father would say to me that day. But she came back with a sweater. It had the words boss written across it. And I had explained to her, I said, I'm never going to pay for you to advertise someone else. Why would I pay? And that sweater at the time was $40 years ago. I said, why would I pay something? And she couldn't understand to the extent as a child. She just wanted the sweater. But why am I paying something to basically put across your body, your chest, your skin, and they're sitting somewhere else, which basically costs them 50 cents or a dollar to make this piece of garbage? But their name is on your advertising for them. And we don't realize we do it, boss. We don't even realize we do it. We're quick to give them free advertising, put stuff on our bodies and advertise, and we're thinking, we're showing people, I'm cool. No, you're giving them free advertising. Years ago, I still have a bag. Years ago, I bought for Calvin Klein. I still use it sometimes. A travel bag. They should give you things when you bought their perfume or their cologne. Nowadays, you buy it, you got to buy this to get the bag. Get the F out of here. The mere fact I'm overspending for your cologne in the first place, you should be giving me something. If you don't, I'm not buying it. And I still smell good. So again, I go back to that validation. And we don't think deep enough to realize, no, they're playing you. They really are playing you. And it may sound strange to say because, we want to live a certain way. Television, reality shows said you got to be doing this. And a lot of times we're looking at, sometimes as men, we look at these athletes that are living this high life, they're drinking. Guess what? A lot of them go bankruptcy once their career is over. Bankrupt. They don't have the money because they spend it foolishly. So we have to open our minds and understand when you live beyond your means, the 70% might be high, but when you live beyond your means, these are things will happen that will occur. A car takes you from A to B. It doesn't have to be a Maserati. A to B. That's where it's just going to take you. But we live in a world where it's got to take me and show people I'm somebody. I got to feel this way. The seats got to swoon around me. I got to have all this stuff. If you think about an average, you in your car, how long per day? Per day. And then you park that car and go live with your mama. Gentlemen, I came across this song a few months ago, man. It blew me away. This song's recorded in 1978. I heard it, stopped me in my tracks. It is a song written by Rosa Ella Jones, along with the legendary 84-year-old Smokey Robinson. And the song is called Daylight and Darkness. At the same time, I would applaud most gentlemen to go back and listen to the song. I would applaud you to go back and listen to the song because he even said, how can you be daylight and darkness at the same time? So I'm gonna come to you first, Mr. DeMaurice. When we know what daylight is when we wake up in the morning. The beautiful sun comes up high, has that yellow gleam to it. Now, time of year you drive around, you gotta put your sunglasses on because it's so strong. It gives off that glare, makes it hard to see. That's part of daylight. And then right now the sun goes down a little early up in the Northeast, about 4:45. We don't have any more sun. It's gone. You got that darkness. So if I was to ask you, Mr. DeMaurice, when you think of a woman, or woman in general, what would be considered daylight, sir?
I've been listening to this song for about 2 weeks. I even had to post it up on my TikTok feed, man. I was usually when I'm working, I have the music on my playlist, and this song came on, and I had to ask the device to keep repeating it. But anyway, it's a question we can't answer. Smokey put it so eloquently,
Oh my
in the
goodness.
song eloquently. When the song's like, you don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm sitting there trying to explain, and you don't even know what I'm talking about.
1978, 1978. I was in high school back then.
It's just the things that you do. How can you be daylight and darkness at the same time? I love you, but I hate you at the same time. You can be so sweet. It's like them sour gummies. You could be sweet, the Sour Patch Kids, and then all of a sudden you just turn sour, and with no warning, nothing. So I mean, that song is so it's so profound, and the way he puts it in the poetry, it just from 1978 till now to forever. That will be the quandary that we've been trying to answer ever since man has been in existence. With the sweet, it's like you're doing everything right, everything going smoothly. You know, this is the best day of my life. Then out of whim, the wind could blow and it could be the worst day of your life. And we don't understand how it gets that way. I don't understand it. Many men have died trying to understand it. I ain't gonna waste my time trying to understand it. But Smokey just described it. How can you be this way at the same time? I don't understand it, but I gotta describe it so future generations can feel what I'm feeling right now. So, man,
Oh man, you don't know what I'm talking about. I mean,
you don't even
realistically,
know what I'm
know
talking
what I'm
about.
talking about. Man, I'm just mad. I'm mad in the way that this song has avoided me for years listening to me. I didn't care. I feel mad. 1978 just came out. And when you think about this too, Mr. Charles, like I said, Rosa Ella Jones wrote this along with him. So he had a woman help him with this song. And she had to relate to some of this to be able to kind of help him put this down on paper and put it down to lyrics. I mean, not lyrics, put it down to music. So when you think about it, Mr. Charles, I'm not sure if you heard the cut, my brother. I would advise you haven't. You may want to take a listen to it. But what would be considered daylight? What would be considered darkness? Because, like Mr. Maurice says, you have that daylight and you just enjoying. It's like, oh man, it feels so good, and out of nowhere, bang comes darkness. Your reaction to it, Mr. Charles?
Yeah, I think I got the perfect scenario, at least for myself. I just listened to the song a few minutes ago. Literally, while you were talking, I listened to it and I'm like, okay, let me see what they're talking about. But so what I gather from it, so for instance, let's do it this way. As far as you meet a woman or you are connected with a woman and y'all having a great day, you might spend the day together, go out get something to eat, do what you do, come back, have a lovely intimate evening, and everything's perfect. You saying to yourself, man, this is how I want to spend my life with a woman. We go out and, oh, what you want to do? I don't know what you want to do. You got to take for. Let's go to the museum. Let's do something different. Let's go to the park. Whatever it is, it's a perfect day. Y'all spend all this time together all day. Beautiful night. You move on, whatever. And then as you continue to work, whatever, you're like, all right, man, we get up in the morning, cook this breakfast, get everything going. We just have another day because we got the whole weekend. And then all of a sudden, just on the turn, you go like, all right, you ready to eat? No, I gotta get ready to go. What? You gotta do what? We got the whole weekend. We planned it. It's almost as if everything that you did prior to whatever that darkness came into it, daylight is gone. It don't matter. Now all of a sudden, it's a totally different person. It's almost as if that person didn't give a damn about you whatsoever. You are convenienced. You are at the moment, whatever. That was that moment. You enjoy the moment because there's no longevity here. So as quick as they can make you feel to be the greatest person in the world and enjoy all this time with you, they can turn that switch and go, you know what? Your time is limited. I'm not available. And it's darkness. It's almost as if they don't know you and they have no regard for your feelings or anything. You're just moving on, man. You're like, man, who in the hell is this? Is this somebody else sneaking here at this time? And you give your all, you give your heart, your soul, your emotions. You don't even care about the money. Oh, you get something to eat. It don't matter. I'm just having such a great time. And then just on the flick of a switch, different person. Daylight and darkness. It's like when daylight and darkness come two separate things. I mean, they're similar, but they're crazy. They're different, but they're similar at the same time to the extreme. Love you, appreciate you, enjoy everything, the moment of you, and then when they destroy you and take your heart, you be like, I can't stand that. So it
I'm,
goes that way.
I look at it like this, man, and I've heard women say in the past, "Well, it's just a hormone. They're your hormones." I'm not buying that. I have testosterone. I'm not breaking stuff and jumping all around at a flick of a switch. Um, it's an unsettledness that they have. Like things just can't be good for long. What can I do to make this different? It almost seemed that simple, Mr. Maurice. Like, what can I do to screw this up? Because you can have the daylight, and it's like I'm enjoying the daylight. No, let's put some darkness into it. It could bring up a conversation that ain't got nothing to do with what's going on, something that might have happened.
A
It,
television show. You could be watching a television show, and they ask you a question about the show.
yes,
You sitting
it's
there
like
relaxing watching the show. Oh, so you would do such and such, huh?
that's it. At the same time, I hear your example, Mr. Charles, where it goes for a long period of time. That's not the same time, my brother. I'm just saying to me, I'm talking about in a matter of minutes. I'm not talking about you spend the whole day. I'm talking about you could take an hour out of a day, and it could start out with daylight in that hour, and before it gets to 60 minutes, you got some darkness coming. Like, why is that necessary? Why? It's just like, what the hell? So when I hear the man sing and say at the same time, he's not saying hours later, he's not saying next week, same time. In a matter of seconds, you're splitting the seconds up. And then sometime you may bring the daylight back after the darkness is there. It's like, how the hell? And that's a question probably never be answered, like you said, Ms. DeMaurice. It probably never be answered because it's like, who does that? Who does it? Realistically, who lives like that on a day-to-day basis? And that's where I implore you guys, man, to I don't know if you two listen to it. So when I say implore you guys, I'm talking about you, DeMaurice and Mr. Charles. I did a show with Mr. Nora, Finding Common Ground. And basically we was talking about why men don't see marriage as a benefit. Towards the latter part of that episode, I said to her, men, one thing men want, and I'm kind of paraphrasing it, is peace. I got nothing against Mr. Nora. She literally said to me, "What is that?"
A piece of what? Piece of
Peace. You have to look up the dictionary, understand the word peace is with a man. And that's your daylight and darkness right there, my brother. They're not trying to attain peace. They're not trying to attain it. It's not even on the manifest. It's not on the menu. It's taken off. It's not. Because if it is, you would avoid some of the darkness. Some darkness I understand is unavoidable. I totally get it. But if you're really trying to obtain peace, bring peace, be part of peace, enjoy peace, hell, you don't know what it is. How could you? How could you be part of it? How could you manifest it? How could you basically subscribe to it, deal with it, enhance it, complement it? It's not even in your vocabulary when it comes to a man. Think about how deep that is. They don't think of it that way. There goes your daylight and darkness. Don't think. If I do this, will that bring a badness to the mood? That no. I want to do that. I want to. I must. I must take this opportunity and do this. I must. Things are going on too good. So, if someone wants to say that to you, Mr. Charles, I'll come back to you with this one. For the most part, what does that mean? When you hear someone say that to you, what does that mean to you? What does that mean? You as a man, what are you thinking?
Well, I think, for instance, and I appreciate the clarification. I literally had a friend listen to one of our shows, and she was telling me about the situation about why men should not get married, and she kind of interjected that she said, "You got to understand that for me, it's more or less like some people just don't want to be happy. And maybe they had a bad situation or they expect chaos, man. It's like okay, that's part of my relationship for it to be chaotic. I don't expect to be happy. I don't expect to be constant. At some point or another, she gonna throw something in the game or something's gonna be messed up. But the one point that my friend brought up was she goes, And sometimes you got to realize some women just natural hell raisers. And that's what she said. She says that's who they are. And she says, and you got to understand that they are. And if you know that they're natural hell raisers, that's kind of part of the complexity that comes with that woman. And you got other women that's not like that. She said, but people just women that are just regular natural hell raisers. She goes, they don't feel complete unless they stirring up something.
Wow.
No matter, as you mentioned, no matter how great you the time you having at that point you go, wait a minute, this is too nice. I gotta do something to stir it up. Cause also too, I want to the other thing real quick. I'm thinking I got to see what kind of man he is, right? What kind of man he is. So if he too soft, if he don't, he just let me do whatever. If he let me do whatever, I can't be with it because he's soft as hell. He don't want to stand up. Men stand up. He too soft. Just let me do whatever. I don't want no man. I've heard this over and over. I don't want a man I can run over. Come on
They're lying. They're lying. They're lying. And
now.
I'm gonna say this. I'm sorry if I cut you off, Mr. Charles. Let me just say this. There's a little bit of hell raising in every woman. I'm sorry. Now there's some women that basically got their bachelor's and their master's and their PhD in it. I will grant you that. You should know that when you're up against it. But you can't tell me. You can't tell me you've dated someone or been with someone where you didn't think there was much hell raiser in that person, and out of nowhere they found a way to bring some darkness and hell raising. I will agree with the second part. What you said is that for the most part, women is always testing men, always testing men. It's not a time that they think, oh, I can stop testing. It's constant, over and over and over. And they kind of want to test to get you to a certain point and have you be a certain way. And that's like you said, you have to stand up. And what I've seen over the years, I don't ask somebody to freaking agree with me. There's a lot of men that have gotten tired of being tested and has given up and just submitted and go with the dumbness. And that's what they really want. They could yell all day, I don't want that. No. A lot of women are married to that type of man. So you can't tell me you don't want that. Divorce him if that's what you don't want. You know you got a man that's afraid of you, don't stand up to you, let you run over him. You marry, we stay with him for 40 or 50 years. So miss me with that. I'm sorry. Miss me. And the men that don't do that, those are the men that are not married. Let's get real. You know a married man, Mr. Demetrius. You see him already, he's beat down. You can look at him, he's beat down. And they've been together. Well, we've been together for 40 years. He done beat down for 35 of them. I wouldn't be with no one unless I could beat him down. I'm not buying. I don't buy it. I see what I see. I know what I know. It sounds good. It sounds good. Because if that is the case, then you would have a problem submitting to me like you're supposed to. Your reaction, Mr. DeMaurice. I'm sorry if I got long with the boss.
No, no, no. I even forgot the question. You're going in so long.
No, no. I kind of turned the question. Well, the question was basically what women would say to you, for the most part, about peace, and she don't understand. How would you have a conversation with someone, a woman, and for the most part, and you say, I like peace, and she has no idea what you're talking about?
Oh, the conversation ends right there. The conversation ends right there because um, you can't teach her what it is at this particular point. If she's been living this long without it, or not knowing about it, or not seeking it, or don't even have a concept of it. So the conversation will end right there. Um, and probably, I would lead her in the right direction. Look on your phone because folks ain't got dictionaries no more. Look on your phone and look up the word peace. And do you have that in your life? It sounds like if you don't know how to define it, you didn't know what it was, you probably don't. So the conversation probably would end right there because I know I'm not going to get it from this particular woman if I'm pursuing her. It's just not there. And it's like, and it kind of really follows through on what we've been saying. Is like, yeah, we want peace as men. We want peace. We want to be relaxed. We want to be able to recharge, especially with the woman we love. But if you ain't got that in you, then you can't give it to me. So what are we doing? What are we doing? So yeah, she came back to me with that. I'm like, you know what? This conversation ends right here, and maybe the relationship because you ain't got it in you. You can't give it to me.
Being a man's peace is like general support. Emotional support, stability. That's not, the darkness and, daylight at the same time. Stability and contributing positively to his well-being. That's it. Now it's interesting, a lot of times people go to the Bibles and grab different things, but in Hebrews tells us that a lack of peace in a relationship becomes a blocker. A blocker. A lack of it becomes a lack of it becomes a blocker. And basically it stops us from enjoying and experiencing the presence of God. Think about that for a second. Why do men seek out peace so much? Why is that really instrumental and important to us? And when you can't identify it and understand it, to me, it says a lot about you. It just does. You have no idea, no reflection. Because I've heard a lot of people say over the years, what they want when they're single. Speaking of women, I said people. Well, I want someone to do this. I want to do this. You get you get the grocery list. You never get, I want to be his peace. I want to help him with his peace. You don't get that. Maybe have you ever heard that, Mr. DeMaurice? I'm just curious. You ever heard that?
Yeah, yeah, I have.
You ever heard they
I
say they
mean,
want to be his peace?
yeah, yeah. You hear it all the time, but that ain't the behavior that's going to be displayed. And I think I sent you guys a videotape of a woman who just when you were talking about what women ask for. I'm not saying all women, but what women ask for and what they really, really want. And basically, what I've seen in my experience is that women will try to turn the men that they're with into women. Then they figure out they don't like them.
Hmm.
I'll say that again. Women will actually get into relationships to turn because they don't like other women. And this woman got a lot of hate for this because they don't like each other. They were trying to turn that man into a woman to have women like characteristics. Oh, you need to be more emotional. You need to be in touch with your feelings, blah, 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 this, that, the other. Oh, you need to do this, such and such and such and such. Turn them into that particular person. Then they figure out they don't like them and then they leave. So
Well,
you don't know what you want. You don't know what a man is. You don't know what a man needs. You don't take the time to really learn your mate. But you're constantly trying to change him into something that you don't want anyway. Because you
yeah,
don't know what you want.
I find a lot of truth in not knowing what they want, and that's. I mean, I'm listening to that. Turn them into a woman. That's interesting. That's wow. I there that wow. Um, I do believe they spend a lot of time trying to mold you to what they need you to be with you. And as I said earlier, they want to put you in a situation where, yes, dear, you're right, dear, all this other type of stuff to where that's what they really want. And they can say they don't, but I think that molding goes on. And usually when they get that, they're not happy. They're going away from it. Because a man that's not going to allow them to do that, they don't want to deal with him. He's got problems. Something's wrong with him. He has the one that can't be molded. There's something wrong with you, and they look at you like, stay away from him. He's this, he's that, not knowing he could be the best thing for you. But since you want to be in control, since you have to feel like you're running the show and make him feel like he is, you'll never deal with it. Your reaction, if you have a reaction, Mr. Charles, I want to leave you out, my brother, before we change gears here.
No doubt. It's just the standpoint of women saying, "Wow," they just sometimes they just say, "Well, I know I want a strong man," and they really don't want that. I mean, they say that it's just confusing as hell. And then, as you mentioned about the men, as DeMarie's talking about, they turn you into a woman. How? I mean, to me, there's only so much you can do. I can try to get along with you and be whatever, be there for you or whatever. But at the same time, there comes a point where it's like, hell no, I ain't doing that. I mean, because you're making me get outside who I really am. And there's a line to that for me anyway. There's always a line. And then that might mean I'm gonna have to come out my bag. And when I come out my bag, you ain't gonna like me. I've had somebody tell me something crazy one time. How I sounded crazy coming to them. I was like, well, you don't understand what I'm talking about. So, but it's coming out of a bag because of the standpoint of you should not have to change who you are in order to be with somebody or get along with somebody. But so many men do, and so many men actually marry this woman and do it for years.
You know
Yeah.
what? Let me ask this question. Let me ask this. Well, I'll give you an example of a test on how a woman tries to turn you into something you're not. You're out in the mall somewhere with your woman, and she turns to you, hands you her pocketbook, and says, "Hold this while I go into the store." Now, I've never. I'm like, nah, I'm not holding that. Why not? Because I'm a man. That's your pocketbook. What am I doing holding your pocketbook? Who do you think I am? Now, she would do that to a girlfriend or something like that. I don't think she would do that to a girlfriend. But the mere fact you asked me to hold something that you know is feminine and how it would look if people walking by seeing me holding your pocketbook. Are you trying to feminize me? Are you trying to tear me down? Are you trying to show other people that I got him broken in into what I want? But I've never been one to say, yeah, let me hold your pocketbook while you go in the store. And I'm sitting outside the store looking like, as my friend, my Latino friend said, bendejo. Sitting there with a pocketbook, just sitting there looking stupid. Like, no, that's your pocketbook. You carry it with you. You brought it with you. Why am I carrying it? So just
Mm.
little things like that that would test your manhood that, once they have you broken down, girl, I got him trained. He'll do this. Watch this. I'm going to call him, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then they figure out once they got you exactly the way, they thought they wanted you. Then I don't need him anymore. They meet a real one and then get attracted to that.
Here's the question I have, based on that, Mr. Maurice. And we talked about this, and I'm gonna come to you first, Mr. Charles, because I don't understand the man's perspective, because in reality, women have been trying men ever since they were brought to the world. Let's go back to Eve. So to me, what I find sometimes with men, we will step out of ourselves, who we are, and be different. For what reason? For her. That's the question, because it's like, men are basically allowing themselves to hold a pocketbook, Mr. Maurice, allowing themselves to basically be ran over by her. But why, Mr. Charles?
I'll say this. I mean, I guess it depends on the individual, but I think for the most part, in these instances, a lot of these men believe they really care for the person. They really want to be with the person that much that they are willing to compromise and do whatever to try to be with that woman. And because sometimes you believe, I mean, love. Let me just say this: some people want to be in love so bad, or they want to be connected with somebody that they be willing to sacrifice because they hope down the line it's going to give them the commitment they're looking for. And that might sound shallow, that might sound weak as a man, or whatever you want to say. And that's at your discretion or your opinion. But I'm saying when the heart or the mind or the emotions come together, men sometimes do things that are seen to be unnatural because they want the love they've been looking for, but sometimes you can't get that love because of the fact that you don't command respect as a man. You're not gonna get that, and women see that. But men do that because they think, well, if I do these things, and she saw how I'm reacting, kind of, even though it's outside my nature, maybe it would all work out in the end. I know that sounds sappy as hell for some people, but I'm telling you, that's how some men see it.
I'm gonna say I think they hit bullseye for some men, but I'm gonna throw another thing into the equation for our country, Mr. Maurice. A lot of men have been raised by their mothers to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of men have been raised by their mothers to be the husband, to be the sap that she could not have in her life. So they instruct you, they raise you, they instill that within you, and you come up. So when you face a woman that your mother basically has designed in your mind at a young age, you think, okay, I'm supposed to do this. And a lot of men fall into that category for that primary reason right there and don't even understand it. Do not understand it. They were basically brainwashed, harsh, but so true to react the way they act towards women. Your response to it, Mr. D. Grace.
My thing is, you have to really think for yourself. And I'm glad I have a father who always reminded me that you got to think for yourself. So you want me to hold your $600 Coach bag, this bag you had to have, in order to emasculate me. And so I always think that sometimes, not all women and not all people, when they're asking you to do things, it's almost like they're testing you or they're seeing how far they can go with certain things. And so, you know, I think for men, you always got to be a man. I don't care how much you like this particular woman. If she's trying to take advantage of you, see it as that. And if it's crossing a boundary, you got to step back. No matter how good she looks or feels and all that other stuff. Every woman got the same equipment. Every woman you got the same equipment. Hers ain't that special. It comes standard edition. It comes standard edition. And if we start thinking like that, then we won't lose ourselves in these relationships and become a sap or a simp or whatever they're calling it now. You got to be true to yourself. If you're not, you're never going to be happy, even if you have her, because you're never going to really have her because she's taking advantage of you because she knows that you are infatuated with her looks or what she can do and all that other stuff. I met a woman, and I met a lot of women who say this. They stay with their particular partner because the partner is a mystery to them. They can't figure it out, and it keeps them in line. They can't figure their partner out. They can't run the games that they want to run that they've done with other people. They can't do it. They can't figure it out. I can't figure him out. So why do you stay? I don't know, girl. I just can't figure him out. They need mystery. They need intrigue. They need excitement. And those partners who stay true to themselves and gives just enough to keep them and doesn't give everything like, girl, I'll give you a baby face song, the sun, the moon, the stars, and you can't give that.
Yeah, there's been a few
You see?
times Babyface. There's been a few times Babyface needs his ass kicked. I like Babyface, but there's been a
Yeah,
few
I'll
times.
kick your dinner too. After I come home from work, I'll kick your dinner too. Soon as I get home from work. Man, step number one.
Oh my
You
goodness,
can, you
man.
can do what is humanly possible to do. Forget that I could give you. You ain't got control of no moon and no stars. You can't give her that. Give her what you can give. Be yourself. Be real. That's what they really want. They're not asking for that, but that's what they want. Be real. Be real. And you ain't got to worry about nothing else because, like I say, they all come standard issue. They got the same equipment.
It's interesting, but another man knows. Oh, when another man is being basically dominated and controlled by a woman that doesn't have good intentions for him in her heart, it stands out to you like a sore thumb. It just does. You see it, and it just stands. And ironically, a lot of times, you can tell if you're friends with a guy that's like that, they ain't gonna want you to be friends much longer. They're too afraid what you might say to him that might have him change. So I'm not sure if you're going to say something, Mr. Maurice. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
No, I'm done. I'm done.
Not that you have something to say, but yeah. So it's they stand out like sore thumb, man. They really do. But peace. That's the interesting thing. I'll say it again. General comfort, emotional support, stability, contributing positively to his well-being. And I would even think that those should be normal things that should be rendered or ready to be rendered in any relationship between both parties, realistically. But not to know that that's something that he's desiring, What the hell's going on here? Mr. Charles, if you got a question, man, we'll do a couple of questions and wrap this one up. If you have a question, sir, I'll come to you.
Yeah. So the question is, how how do you think uh, people that, let's just say that, because with the election taking place and it being done, do you think people, the majority of people that not have been in agreement with the election, plan to do things differently, how they go about things, or they just gonna kind of go with the flow, considering like it's something they can't change in their lives?
I'm going to say go with the flow. Yeah, kind of go with the flow. I don't think they see how they can do anything differently, and they don't go with the flow. Your response, D. Maurice?
I do see some changes in how people spend their cash, especially in Chicago. Um, you constantly are bombarded with lists and information about businesses who do support um, the the incoming administration and did support that candidate, and companies who didn't. So I'll give you a good example. Um, I know here in Chicago and around different parts of the country, folks are boycotting Walmart. They're not going to Walmart. They're taking their business to Costco and Target, who really are more liberal stores. Folks have stopped going to McDonald's. You know, you can drive by McDonald's, you can drive by different restaurants that supported the Republicans, and it is hardly nobody in there. A lot of when the numbers came out, where a certain groups who are not black that supported the current administration coming in, you can see that their stores, I'm talking about Asian, Latino stores, are empty. And if it's not folks that look like them in it, it's folks that don't look like them are not in those stores. So I think people are really kind of really selective in the companies, the stores, the restaurants that support, that voted against their interests, and really not spending their dollars there. I'm looking at more of, okay, let me support more black businesses. I've always been supportive of black businesses, but I'm making a much more assertive effort to seek out companies when I can get stuff from them that I need. Or I heard people who do go to Walmart, and that's the only store in their community. They don't go there to buy the big ticket items. They go there and buy things that they need to survive, and that's about it. So I do see some changes in attitudes towards that, and how folks are going to be moving a little bit differently in the next 4 years, seeing other people FAFO, which stands for fucking around and finding out.
Hmm. Wow, I'm happy to hear that, Mr. Reese, in Chicago. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. Realistically, one thing this country, any administration, will basically take notice of is where the money go. Your response to a good question, Mr. Charles.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that it's important to try to understand, because I mean, sometimes you get, or for me anyway, you get caught up in what's going on and the factor of the results. But if you pay close attention when it comes to finances and some policies that are going to be made, uh, then you can make a difference as to how you go about spending your money, also how you invest your money. What are some loopholes that can allow you to take advantage of what's happening, even though it may not be exactly the way that you want it to happen. Some things that will take place, you just got to pay close attention. And it doesn't have to be against what you believe in or anything like that, but there's some things that happen. But sometimes we get so focused on the result of the election that we miss the programs and the other things that we can take advantage of. Because at the end of the day, and I think that's why some people are misguided and don't understand that end of the day, a lot of people look at how are they going to be able to do what they need to do financially, and you just got to look at it. And granted, some people are party oriented, and I ain't mad at that. But at the end of the day, it's like for certain other individuals, it's like, what can I do to try to make sure that I'm in the best position so I can do what I need to do to help others and however I want to go about living my life during the current situation.
Mm-hmm. Maurice, your question, sir.
Yeah, man, I'm thinking about this time of year, man, and I started hearing a lot of the holiday songs, man, and started bringing back a lot of memories. I wanted to know from you guys around this time of year, what are some of the fond memories that you have about this season?
Hmm. Yeah, there's a bunch, man. I go with one to just jump out and I'll move out the way. My son, um, one year when he was younger for Christmas at the time when I think he kind of believed in Santa Claus, but wasn't totally sure. Um, and a lot of things he wants, some things he didn't want, he was able to obtain. And the joy that he had that morning, I remember getting him an air hockey table was one of the things. I'm not sure if he asked for it, but I remember we used to go and play it, and I got him an air hockey table. And as he was just unraveling his gifts and doing some things, he sat there and he just looked at me in a piercing stare, and he said, "You're the best dad." And that nothing else had to happen. Nothing else had to happen, man. You're the best dad. That it just came out of his mouth and just stared at me. And that was that. I don't think I can have a better Christmas than that. Your reaction, Mr. Charles?
No, I think that's spot on. I just remember uh, coming up, and then the things that you maybe have put on your wish list, and you go, man, that either costs too much money, or if whatever you was into, whatever myth you was into at that point, you go, it ain't bringing me that. But whatever it was, you go like, man, it ain't happening. But when you go under them gifts, open up that, go to that tree and grab that gift, and you saw exactly what you asked for, exactly what you asked for, and like that, like you mentioned about the air hockey or something else, and they just keep coming. It's like, man, as a kid, there's no better feeling, and that's why you just want to your parent, and you don't understand the sacrifices parents have to make to do what they got to do sometimes. But for a kid to really understand it and appreciate it goes a long way. And then it just makes it for whatever 2 weeks you off or whatever you off or whatever you're doing. There's peace, there's happiness, there's joy. You just love, man. It's just great things inside of it. But yeah, that goes a long way too, man. From that standpoint, I remember too, though, real quick, that it doesn't really happen now because we don't get winters like that. But I remember just wanting it to snow so I could go outside. And back in the day, we used to have old school sleds, man. And we used to go up on hills and slide and just sled, man, all day. You stay out there all day, nose running, taking care of yourself, but you just could stay out there for hours. And just simple fun on a sled in this bitter cold with ice and everything. Everybody taking turns coming out the house and having fun. And it was the most innocent, but the most electrifying and the easiest thing to do. And everybody had fun. Then, of course, nothing like coming into the house and getting you some cocoa or some hot chocolate, man. That stuff that you don't have, it doesn't cost anything, but I think a lot of kids and a lot of people today are missing.
Yeah, some of the best fun was had outside. That's for sure. Mr. DeMaurice, what you got, man? What you got? Good question.
Yeah, man. I thought of family, man, and being surrounded by love and food, man. Because we all were, our families weren't, that well off where we, could eat caviar and all that stuff. But when we got together, man, all the food that was there. I mean, it was like abundance of. I don't know where that food came from. Abundance of food and cake and pies and just being around like your cousins and your aunts and uncles and folks stopping in just to you know visit and share love that and the music. I listen to a lot of music, and the music takes you back to those spaces. Where you were, what you were doing. um Whether or not you were over your aunt's house or your grandparents' house or you were at home when folks were coming to visit. It was just surrounded with love. It's like you saw a part of your family and the side of your family that you really don't see throughout the year. You may see it in glimpses in different spaces, but it seemed like that particular space where it was cold outside, it seemed like the love was just even warmer and more radiant than any time of the year. So that's what I started thinking about this time. I'm just listening to some music, and some of the same music we heard years ago when we were kids. Some of the same popular Christmas music on Black radio. Santa Claus coming straight from to the ghetto, Silent Night, and all of it. Just takes you back, man. So sometimes I do watch movies where they have black characters at Christmas time, and it kind of brings you back to no matter how hard it got for us as a people, we sure know how to have a good time on a limited budget. Sometimes it don't, fun doesn't escape us when it's time to, celebrate and get together and have some great food.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Real good fun memories. Gentlemen, we're going to put the lid on it right there. We'll get back together in another 6, 7 days, usually 7. In the meantime, I thank you too for doing what you always do. Bring it strong, no chaser. Keep your head up, keep going strong. God loves you, and we love you too. Till the next time, y'all take care.